Thank you for staying with us. In the studio with me now is the Federal Member of Parliament for Leeds-Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lakes, and I'm talking with Michael Barrett. Welcome to the program.
Hey, thanks for having me here.
Well, hey, why not? Hey, this is great. I'm glad you came in. So you're connected with the Conservative Party of Canada. Tell us what your role is.
Well, first and foremost, my role is to serve the folks in our community. It's my number one job. It is the most rewarding part of what I get to do. And I have a great service team in the community. I have a full-time office in Brockville. I have a full-time office in Kemptville. And twice a month, we do services in Gananoque and in Westport. And so we try and get out to see as many people as we can. My staff are tremendous at helping people resolve their issues with any federal services. So that's the most important thing that I do, is connecting with people, resolving any issues that they have, and then also getting their feedback on what's happening on issues of federal relevance, and then taking their feedback to Ottawa and trying to get that reflected in any legislation.
Wonderful. So are you also the shadow minister?
I am a shadow minister for ethics and accountable government.
Which means?
So that means that in our system, in our Westminster system, we of course have the federal cabinet. People are very familiar with that. It's led by the First Minister, our Prime Minister, Mr. Carney, and he has his ministers who are responsible for departments. Now, the tradition is that the official opposition, His Majesty's loyal opposition, has critic portfolios or a shadow ministry. And mine is a bit of a catch-all because it's government accountability, which is
big.
It's
huge.
Big. It's kind of the raison d'etre for the official opposition,
right,
is to hold government accountable.
Yes.
So I sit on the Access to Information, Privacy and Ethics Committee, but my work has also been on the Government Operations Committee and the Public Accounts Committee. It's really about finding areas where there could be some efficiencies, or frankly, where there's been wrongdoing, and you know, it could be by contractors of the government, you know, people who purported to have done something that they didn't in fact do, but collected payment from the government, which is Canadian tax dollars. And so identifying those kinds of things and really driving the efficiency, having the accountability that Canadians expect from their government.
So you're like an accountant. You make sure that everything is dotted and the T's are crossed, and if they're not, you want to know why. Yeah,
exactly. And sometimes no news is good news, but we ask a ton of questions, and those can come in different forms. Everyone sees a question period. Those are very quick questions and answers, 35 seconds each. Yes. But we also do what are called inquiries of ministry, order paper questions. They're longer, we write them. The government has a month and a half to get back to us. And then we have committee hearings where we get information as well.
That's wonderful. Thank you for that information, because that means a lot to our viewers. We sometimes don't always know the interaction within the political realm, so it's nice to be able to talk with someone who is going through all that and can actually tell us what is happening. Now, throughout your career, you've been on a lot of committees. You were on the Justice and Human Rights, Health, Government Operations, Procedures and House Affairs. You were the Vice Chair of MAID. Yes, which is the medical assistance in dying. So you're very familiar with a lot of portfolios, aren't you?
Yeah, so I was the Vice Chair of the Standing Committee on Health, as well as the Joint Committee. It was a joint Senate-House committee to review the medical assistance in dying laws. And
that's very, very, it's in the news a lot, and especially with the different diseases that are out there and end of life. After your service with the Canadian Armed Forces, and you were on council at one time, why did you decide politics?
So it all comes from the same place, actually. Okay. I love our country. We live in the greatest country in the world, and what could I do to give back? Volunteerism was something that that was important in my household growing up, and I always wanted to serve. So I joined the Canadian Armed Forces. It was a tremendous experience. I met and worked with the greatest Canadians that I could have imagined.
Yes.
And following my service, when my wife and I moved back to this community, to Spencerville, I wanted to find another way to be involved. And so I ran for municipal council there, and I served on council there. And I was involved in conservative politics. And when Mr. Brown, our former member of parliament, passed away, he was a great MP.
Yes.
That triggered a nomination process to see who the conservative candidate would be. I pursued that and was subsequently elected in 2018, and then have been re-elected 3 times since then. But why politics?
Yeah, why?
To serve the community. I get to meet a lot of people. I get to reflect the views of our community, which is different than other places. You know, what's important to people in Brockville and in Grenville County and in Leeds County is different than what's important, to people in Kingston, but also very different maybe to people in Victoria, British Columbia, or in Victoria by the Sea, Prince Edward Island. It's a really big country, lots of different views, and to be able to be a strong voice for this community, it's a challenge, but it's one that I thought I was up for, and I think I've met that challenge and continue to strive to do that every day.
So do you feel that you're very approachable?
Do I think I'm approachable?
Yeah.
So I think so. People are sometimes surprised when they see me out with my children, and
Why?
and well, they're surprised that I'm not wearing a suit, and but that's a little complicated when I've got maybe my 5-year-old even up on my hip or on my shoulders, and or out at the grocery store. But yeah, I think so. I'm just a dad and a neighbor and a husband, and just someone who loves this country fiercely, like everybody in this community.
Exactly, yeah. Okay, let's talk about the Alto high-speed electric rail. What are you hearing out there from your constituents?
So this issue is unlike anything else I've seen in 7 years. And we have received, I say we, my office, we've received a ton of feedback, several hundred calls and emails. And that precipitated me to send one of my mailings. And people, they can love them or they can hate them, but they're coming in the mail, and they'll tell you what I've been doing. And I sent out a postcard to everyone, and it had a survey link. So we received over 1,000 responses from people with 6-digit postal codes matching our community, and 95% of them said they don't want this train to pass through our community, and 89% of them said they don't want the project to go ahead at all. And what is the project? Well, it's $90 billion, and it's a train that runs from Toronto through to Quebec City, and there's no stop here. And I'll tell you that the biggest issue that I hear from people is their concern about the forced sale of their land, expropriation.
Yes.
They're concerned about that. Roads being cut in half, but not reconnected with an overpass, and what that would do for farming, what that would do for emergency response times. And so people are concerned about these things. But also, we live in a very ecologically diverse but environmentally sensitive area, the Frontenac Arch Biosphere Reserve. And that needs to be taken into consideration specifically in this area. It's also a historic area, and not just the UNESCO recognized Rideau Canal, but many, many other sites. And so people have a wide range of concerns, but at $90 billion, a train that people here are very unlikely to take because there's no stop here. You would need to drive to Ottawa to take the train to Montreal. Well, that's not really what one would do if one was able to afford a ticket, because we don't know what the prices would be.
No.
But every family is going to have to take on the burden of paying for this. And there are just so many immediate needs. I would say things that are more urgent for our community that I would like to see federal investment in. And look, when we have federal investment, a good example is the Pathways project just outside of Brockville here, that supportive housing project, that received over $800,000 in federal funding. That's the ticket. That's the kind of thing that's going to help people right here in our community today. take care of our loved ones, help them if they're suffering from addiction, help them get connected with jobs, get them back in, maybe reunited with their family, get people a doctor. These are some, really, I think, really big asks. But there are infrastructure projects that I'd like to see the government do. Here in Ontario, we have the Ring of Fire. That would have a real benefit to our GDP, create jobs, help us get some critical minerals, maybe help reinforce our sovereignty when we're looking at challenges faced with an uncooperative partner in the U.S. administration, with the U.S. presidency.
Isn't that quite a mess?
So these are the kinds of things that I'm hearing, and what I'm proposing in the alternative. Because it's not simply, opposition. I believe in being propositional as well.
Oh, yes.
So I think that's important.
Yes, bring back and yeah. So how do you bring those concerns to Ottawa? Explain to our viewers how you do this.
Well, sometimes it's indirectly. So, through a petition. For example, I rise in the House and I present a petition. Sometimes it can be through different types of questions. Like I said, I raise it through an order paper question, that inquiry of ministry or at a committee. And in this case, it's one of those things that I raise directly, and so I look to foster good relationships with members in all parties in the House, and I'm fairly successful in doing that because this is an issue that I discussed directly with the Federal Minister of Transport, Stephen McKinnon, and raised the concerns about our community. It's about directly dialoguing about and sharing with, and the survey results. I'd committed to sharing those with Minister McKinnon and with the Crown Corporation Alto out of transparency, but also for their understanding of what people here are feeling. So
Exactly. And that's important. Yeah. It's so important. Last question. How do you balance political versus personal?
So I'm so fortunate. I'm blessed, really, by my family. My wife, Amanda, she is heaven sent for me. She keeps everything running with my family. I have 5 wonderful children, and she takes she takes on the responsibility when I'm not home, and when I'm there, I try to be as present as I can. And as my kids get a little older, I do like to take them to more things out in the community, because that's really what this is all about, is enjoying this special place that we live together as a family. And I want them to meet the great people that make our community so great. So it's we don't, I'll tell you, this might be surprising, we don't talk a lot of politics at home.
No, that doesn't surprise me. I would imagine that you don't. When you're at home, you want to be present.
Yeah, and we talk about the things that are, my children love the theater arts in Brockville, the Brockville Operatic Society, the youth opportunities in the arts down at the Arts Hub, for example.
Yes.
These programs, these organizations are incredible. My kids love them, and they're run by just the very best people, aren't they?
They are indeed.
Yeah.
They are indeed. Thank you for sitting down with me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for the chance. Let's do it again sometime.
Oh, we will.
Great.
We will. Okay.